Uh, I'm going. But let's start with the stats first.
Nations across the world for centuries. It involves any distinction, exclusion, restriction, or preference based on race, color, descent, or national or ethnic origin that undermines the equal enjoyment of human rights and fundamental freedoms. Despite significant progress in many areas, racism continues to manifest in various forms, from subtle everyday interactions to overt institutional policies. Understanding how racism operates globally helps us recognize its impact on specific communities and regions. In this video, we are going to take a look at America's most racist towns, exploring the historical and contemporary factors that contribute to their notoriety. These towns have made our list due to their persistent racial tensions, discriminatory practices, and the lived experiences of their residents. Stay tuned to the end for some unexpected trivia about the names of places that you probably never thought about. Without further ado, here are America's most racist towns in no particular order. Number 10, Harrison. Harrison sits in Boone County in northern Arkansas, just on the border of Missouri. The town has been dubbed the most racist town in America, and that legacy goes deep, both historically and contemporarily. A viral video made by Bob Bliss did little favors for the town. He made a video called "Holding a Black Lives Matter Sign in America's Most Racist Town." What followed was 3 days of abuse, racial slurs, ironic since Bliss is white, and even direct death threats. While many residents have been challenging this reputation, it's an uphill battle when your town serves as the headquarters and mailing address for the Ku Klux Klan. The town's history is no better. Arkansas, a former slave state, gained notoriety with the Harrison race riots of 1905 and 1909, where the town violently removed all but one black man, creating an all-white community. The town has been working to rid itself of its legacy, and since 2003 has had a community task force on race relations to combat racism. The task force has been successful in removing offensive billboards.
Do you want to discover how to succeed on YouTube without ever even showing your face with AI YouTube channels? Well, I'd love to invite you to the most insane free gift ever.
Moving offensive billboards and a petition to remove one particular billboard received over 8,000 signatures. Also, Kevin Cherie, a prominent African American community leader, was honored with the Arkansas Martin Luther King Commission's Trailblazer Award in 2019 for his efforts in promoting diversity and service. Number 9, Anchorage. Black Americans aren't the only victims of racism, and this city has almost an invisible form of prejudice against Native Alaskans. Though Alaska Natives make up only 16% of the population, they make up 29% of all homicide victims, with Anchorage leading the violent crime statistics. Black Americans living in Alaska make up only 4% of the population, but they make up 10% of all homicide victims. Anchorage has a crisis of violence against Alaska Native women, with less resources being put towards solving these crimes. The murder of Brandon Erlmeyer, whose English name means Old Man Raven, highlights this disparity. His murder was nearly 6 years ago, and no arrests have been made as of 2023. His memorial site has been vandalized by bullets and fire. His case has reignited the epidemic of crimes against Alaska Natives, many of which go unsolved. In the Anchorage School District, black students receive failing grades at twice that of white students, while Native Alaskans receive failing grades at 3 times that of their white counterparts. This doesn't mean teachers are deliberately failing students of color, but it does highlight achievement gaps, access to technology, as well as instructional inequities. Many Native Alaskan children are classified as ELL, or English language learners, given that English is not their primary language at home. This is a result of colonization, creating a disadvantage for Native Alaskan children being thrust into an English world. Alaska only became a state in 1959, so it's no surprise that many people still speak their native languages at home. A bright side for Anchorage is that it is the fastest growing city in terms of racial and ethnic diversity in the US. Number 8, Leith. Leith, North Dakota, an otherwise small town in the middle of nowhere with only 29 residents, gained notoriety in 2012. when white nationalist Craig Cobb moved into Leith and bought up 12 plots of land. This Aryan-centric takeover was highlighted in the PBS documentary, Welcome to Leith. Cobb encouraged his followers to move to Leith, and in 2018, they successfully had 2 of their white nationalists voted onto the city council. This was devastating to Leith residents who held protests, even going so far as to petitioning Grant County to dissolve Leith as a city in order to remove the white supremacists from office. It was never dissolved, and today Leith still exists, but Craig Cobb has sold off his land and left. The lone black resident, Bobby Harper, said his life was overturned and fraught with turmoil since the arrival of Craig Cobb and his white supremacist followers. The people of Leith fought hard to reclaim their town, and it's sad that the name of Leith is now tethered to hate when none of its original residents, including Mr. Harper, felt like their town was ever racist before. Cobb and one of his followers were charged with 7 felony counts of terrorizing town residents. Though the town successfully rid itself of Cobb and his plot to take over the town, it is marred in the minds of the nation and immortalized in a documentary. On the upside, this showed how one tiny town with fewer residents than an apartment building was able to stand up for what's right and win back their town from the grips of racism and hate. Number 7, California. California, brace yourself because you are number 7 on this list. Racism is not just a problem in the American South or rural towns with mostly white populations. Even in California, racism, race riots, and sundown towns are issues. Los Angeles, with its large population, manages to avoid being on this list, but Fresno, California's 5th largest city, does not. Fresno is like 2 different cities in one. The western half of Fresno is mostly Latino and black. When you drive through, you can see that the city has been neglected. The roads have potholes. Landfills are overflowing.
Knock, knock. Hi there. I'd love to show you what a K-12 powered school is really like.
Potholes, landfills are overflowing, and schools can't meet the needs of their students. One resident remembers being called racial slurs by her white teachers, who made it clear they didn't want to be in West Fresno. More than half of the people in West Fresno live below the poverty line, compared to only 27% in the rest of the city. A quick internet search will show you a city full of racial violence, accusations of racism in schools, and government neglect in neighborhoods mostly made up of people of color. This segregation was not an accident. It was planned. Redlining, a practice where people of color were denied home loans, and certain neighborhoods were reserved for whites only, was legal over 50 years ago. Even after the laws changed, the effects of redlining continued informally, creating 2 very different Fresnos. However, the residents are working hard to acknowledge and address these past policies that still affect them today. Number 6, Vidor, Texas. A small town in the southeastern corner of the state just east of Houston. Vidor was one of hundreds of communities in America known as a sundown town. This was a place where black Americans were not allowed after dark. In some of these towns, there were posted signs saying things like, "Whites only after dark." Mayors of Vidor have tried to change its reputation, but to this day, many black Americans won't even stop for gas in Vidor. According to the 2020 census, Vidor has a population of around 8,600, with only 39 residents identifying as black. The first black resident moved into Vidor in 1993 amidst Ku Klux Klan-led protests. This came as a push to desegregate the town. Despite his pleas for more black residents to join him, only 5 other black Americans were willing to move. Little has changed since. In 2020, in the wake of the death of George Floyd, a Black Lives Matter march was set to take place in Vidor. The march forced the town to reckon with its reputation, and although the march was considered a victory by most for even taking place, the march was met with backlash from many of the town residents as well as counter-protesters. Residents of Vidor have been vocal on social media trying to debunk the notion that it is a racist place, but even many of those posts have racist undertones. Vidor has work to do, but the fact that many residents joined the Black Lives Matter march gives hope that there is change on the horizon. Sorry to say that we are staying in the South for the next one. Number 5, Rochelle, Georgia. It's the whole of Wilcox County. Before residents get upset, know that the town's youth have brought attention to this issue and forced the town to deal with its past. Wilcox County is in the middle of the state. It's a place where tradition is important. There are churches on every corner, Confederate flags wave proudly, and until 2013, schools still held segregated proms. How could a public school do this? Simple. They didn't. During desegregation, many schools stopped hosting proms to avoid integrated dances. Parents and students hosted their own proms, one for white students and one for black students. In a county that is 35% black, it's hard to believe that despite efforts to fight racism, Georgia was still holding segregated proms. But the students of Wilcox County High School in Rochelle decided enough was enough. In 2013, 4 students created a Facebook page to petition the school to host an official, integrated prom. These students highlighted a racist part of the country that many Americans pretend doesn't exist, but they also sparked change. Wilcox has a long way to go, but its youth have started the path to social change. Number 4. Brooklyn. Crown Heights. Brooklyn, a neighborhood within New York City, makes this list. While New York City as a whole is often considered a bastion of racial progress and enlightenment, hate crimes are on the rise, up 76% in New York City to be exact. This could be attributed to new task forces encouraging people to report hate crimes, but the result is nonetheless bad news for big cities that like to pride themselves on being less racist than others. Having a bigger population or more diversity should not be an excuse for having more hate crimes. If these cities were as progressive as they tout, then there shouldn't be so many hate crimes. Crown Heights has historically been a refuge for Hasidic Jews fleeing Europe. The neighborhood was put on the map after race riots in 1991 between black and Jewish residents, which was immortalized in Anna DeVere Smith's play Fires in the Mirror, which was performed all over the world.
Seniors are getting funeral benefits this week. Your children...
Unleash the power of knowledge and connect with the heartbeat of the African diaspora. Download our African Diaspora News Channel app now on Google Play and Apple App Store. Stay informed with authentic and diverse perspectives, breaking news, and cultural insights. Immerse yourself in a community that celebrates unity, resilience, and progress. Experience the vibrancy of the diaspora at your fingertips. Don't miss out. Empower your perspective today. Search African Diaspora News Channel and join the conversation.
So, black people in Baton Rouge, Louisiana are going to be a lot safer, and I'm going to tell you why. So this particular story actually started in 2012, where wealthy white people wanted to have a separate school district for their children. Well, that was not successful, and in 2019, they got a ballot measure to try to separate the school district, but that didn't work. And so somebody came up with the bright idea of, well, why don't we just get a whole new town? We'll separate from the rest of Baton Rouge. And so recently, a Louisiana Supreme Court, back in the early 1900s when the KKK first got started, people would often see them riding around with their hoods and robes on while holding torches on horseback, right? Well, of course, that's not quite the way it is today, but I want y'all to watch this video and then come on back.
This is a very dark story, and I don't know if anyone else has ever experienced this before. I went to a very racist school, and you want to know how racist? We had 3 grand wizards, which is like governors of the Triple K graduate from our school, right? One of the guys that I went to high school with, at the time he was 15, I was like 14, he thought it would be a good idea to hang out with his friend who was 20 and burn a cross. They built the cross in their front yard, right? And they burned the cross in the only black family's yard that we had in our school. And engraved on the cross it said that Triple K will make you pay, right? Like, you're listening to this, you're like, that's a hate crime. I agree. It gets worse. That same county that he did that in, he is now a law enforcement officer. That's where I went to school. Do you guys have any fun stories about your high school?
So as you saw and heard there, that man said that he went to school, high school to be exact, with people who were involved with the KKK. First y'all heard him tell that horrendous story. And he also went on to say that that particular gentleman, and I'm going to say that loosely, is now a police officer or in law enforcement, right? And so the crazy part about that is, for whatever reason, people think that people who are involved in the KKK, like, that's their main job, right? No, that's not their main job. Their main job is probably something like a senator, a judge, a police officer, a doctor, or you name it, right? They're not just doing that for a living. They're moonlighting as a Klan's member. And so even in 2024, that may be the case because, as he went on to say later on in the video, a lot of people that he went to high school with or in his comment section, they're friends with him on TikTok, they might say, oh, well, he's changed. He's not like that anymore. And it's like, how do you know? Because it's not a secret that people who are involved with Klan activity, if you will, they are also police officers. That's what they were back then when it first got started. It was started, with a lot of senators, United States senators, as Klan's members. And a lot of them, they were the Grand Dragon or the Grand Wizard or whatever their highest office is, right? So why are we to think that that has gone away? Ask yourself, from the things that we see now, especially going with Black Americans, do you think that they have changed? When you see a police officer do what Derek Chauvin did to George Floyd, wouldn't you maybe think that he's involved in some sort of Klan activity or something close to it? That's not something, a person who is not like that does. So I don't know. I'm one of those people that fully believe that they are still around. They might not be riding around in public like they used to today, but I'm sure they're still meeting behind some barnyard, some barn somewhere, plotting on Black people and everybody else that they do not like. So anyway, y'all tell me what you think of that. And for more...
Most black coffee has 2 ingredients you want, water and coffee beans. But they also have over 400 that you really don't.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Now for those of you who think life is a game, you think you got time to keep on playing around as if your soul is not important to you, I want you to take a listen at this video because it's very real out here. It always have been, but some of our people act as if they don't know what's going on or what time it is, right? But you better start getting your eyes open because as so many of you say often, we are living rent-free in a lot of people's minds. They constantly have us on their minds, even with things that have absolutely nothing to do with us. So, of course I'm sharing with you stock images or whatever, or should I say AI-generated images, but there's a man very similar looking to this here. He wanted to start a so-called race, W-A-R, before the election, because he has this disdain in his heart for melanated people, and also because he says he thinks we're not people, but monsters. Isn't that something? So you have people who want to gather at an event, supposed rap event, but he's the one who wants to show up with a gun and take folk out. But yet he's calling, see, that's what I'm talking about. He's calling them the monsters. That's what I'm talking about. They have some people labeled as terrorist. And I'm breaking it up for a reason, y'all. These algorithms are a trip on YouTube. They call some people thugs. And then they call others savages. Ain't that something? Oh my goodness. How can you go from city to city, country to country, continent to continent, labeling everybody as the things that you are actually guilty of? Anyway, let me get into this article. This man, this Arizona man, he's facing federal charges for planning a mass shooting in Atlanta. He wanted to do this where he said a lot of so-called black folk were going to be gathered. Let's get into the story. So, he's facing federal charges for planning this thing. He wanted to start this thing, right? It says an Arizona man was arrested in May for planning this thing in Atlanta targeting African Americans in the city to incite a race. W-A-R. Mark Adams Prieto is accused of selling rifles to people to provide weapons to begin this race. W-A-R. Ahead of the 2024 election. So he was recruiting other people, y'all. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, he was indicted Tuesday by a federal grand jury following a months-long investigation by the FBI and his arrest in mid-May. An affidavit submitted to the court by members of the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force in Phoenix, Arizona, detailed how the investigation into Prieto began in October of 2023. According to the affidavit, a reliable source reported that a man, later identified as Prieto, expressed a desire to incite a race, W-A-R, prior to the 2024 election. The affidavit says the source told FBI agents that they'd spoken to Prieto at various gun shows over 3 years, eventually including political conversation. During the past year, Prieto's comments became suspicious and alarming, according to the affidavit including advocating for mass shooting and specifically targeting blacks, JEWSs, and Muslims. The source told FBI agents that Prieto believes that martial law will be implemented shortly after the 2024 election and that a mass shooting should occur prior to the implementation of martial law, and asked the source in late 2023 if they were ready to KILL a bunch of folk. The FBI said that the affidavit that this showed Prieto's desire to recruit people to help him carry out this mess. The investigation by federal agents found that Prieto worked at a gun show vendor, as a gun show vendor in Prescott, Arizona, where he sold numerous firearms from his personal collection. The source told the FBI that Prieto also likes to conduct trades off book through cash or trade to avoid possible issues of interaction with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. At the end of 2023, agents contacted the person running the Arizona-based Crossroads of the West gun shows, where Prieto was a vendor, who confirmed his status there, matching a description given to agents by the confidential source. The FBI put Prieto under surveillance from January to March. At a gun show in mid-January, undercover agents met with Prieto and their confidential source. While Prieto only made small talk with the source and undercover agents on the first day of the gun show, the next day Prieto spoke about his plans for an attack. The affidavit says, Prieto divulged his plans to commit crimes of violence against African Americans in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia specifically. Prieto told the source and undercover agents that he wanted their help to carry out a mass shooting at a yet to be determined rap concert in the city, according to documents. According to court documents, that was when Prieto also explained he wanted to carry out the proposed attack in Atlanta, saying, "The reason I say Atlanta, why? Why is Georgia such and such upstate now?" And now this is a quote from him. It says, "When I was a kid, this was one of the most conservative states in the country. Why is it not now? Because as the crime got worse in LA, St. Louis, and all these other cities, all these so-and-sos moved out of those places and moved to Atlanta. That's why it isn't so great anymore. And they've been there for several years. Several years. Oh my goodness." He also said he wanted to perform the proposed attack at a rap concert because there would be a high concentration of African Americans at the event. Part of the plan included leaving Confederate flags to send a message that we're going to fight back now. And every whitey will be the enemy across the country, according to the affidavit. What does he mean, fight back? What does he mean, fight back? Fight who back? Because we ain't doing nothing to y'all. Now, they would feel funny if we said, oh, well, okay, anyway, let me just stick to the script here. What's in this particular article? See, they talk this trash when ain't nobody a threat to them at all. My. So, let me get back to what I was talking about. Oh my goodness. So, Prieto also told the confidential source and undercover agents that he would show no mercy, no quarter, telling them that they could not have any feeling. They're not people. They're monsters as far as I'm concerned. You see how this stuff is so deeply embedded in their hearts. It's like rottenness in their flesh. And they have what I call the I can't help it. It was prophesied that they would have this perpetual dirt tie that was going to burn in them forever and ever and ever. And that is what we see coming to fruition with this. Says while under surveillance in February, the FBI saw Prieto go to a gun show in Phoenix, Arizona. While there, he was seen going into the gun show with 2 rifles and walking to the confidential source's vendor booth. When he got to the booth, he immediately asked if the source and the undercover agent were still planning to participate in his attack, the affidavit says. On multiple occasions, the affidavit then notes that Prieto made it clear the attack was racially motivated and that he wanted to be explicitly not a gang-related thing, saying he planned to shout K, K, K all the way, among other slogans, and emphasizing that having a high body count of victims was the most important part of his plan, according to the court documents. I'm not surprised by this at all, y'all. Let me just break away from the article for just one moment. Not surprised by this at all. This is biblical prophecy coming to pass. It told us that they would have this perpetual dirt tie that was going to burn in them forever. And this is what we see. They don't want us happy. They don't want us united. They don't want us to have anything. This is biblically prophesied. And our people need to wake up and stop all that turn the other cheek stuff, thinking that you're supposed to turn it. So let me tell you this. Let me ask you this. Those of you who got that turn the other cheek doctrine. So if you're standing there and he got this thing pointed at you, are you not going to try to save your life? Are you not going to try to take him down to defend yourself? Or are you just going to stand there and let him empty his rounds off on you because you want to turn the other cheek like a good old Christian? Many who have that mentality, they have that turn the other cheek mentality. They don't feel that way about everybody, just other folk. They don't feel that way about their own. Not saying that you should, but not saying that you shouldn't. But the thing is this. I don't know what I'm saying, y'all. I'm tired.
Wells Fargo has enabled small businesses to create or preserve more than 222,000 jobs, with roughly $420 million donated to support diverse small business owners. Wells Fargo, the bank of doing.
So I got this sister that's going to talk about really something that a lot of you deal with in the workplace, working around them folks, about the way you talk. And I want you to listen exactly what she said, and I'm going to give you just the conclusions I've came to. That's why I'm kind of cool on some things. Just go ahead and roll that.
White women in the workplace need to be studied.
Because how is me talking like this, even keeled all the time, seen as a threat or intimidating? There's white people in this office who yell, scream, pound the desks, talk to clients like they're crazy, and they are never ever seen as being disrespectful or unapproachable. But for me, it's like, unless I come in like, hi, oh my god, how are you? Tell me all about your weekend. I'm seen as unapproachable, intimidating, and I don't know how
you're not approachable. talented basketball player. He's a first and this happened in September of last year or 2023. Terrence Shannon Jr., he traveled to Lawrence, Kentucky to watch his school team, which is the University of Illinois, play against the Kansas Jayhawks in a football game. So when he went to go watch this football game, while he was there, he went to a spot called the Martini Room, a bar or a spot that's near the University of Kansas campus called the Martini Room. Now, while he was at this place called the Martini Room, this white girl named Maddie Neal claimed that her and her friend were leaving for the night. They were exiting when she spotted a cute boy wave her towards him, okay? She said he was tall, he had different colored dreadlocks, and he wore a mustard colored shirt. Now, after her friend encouraged her, go back, see what he wants, they re-entered the bar around 12:15 to go see what Terrence Shannon Jr. wanted, so they say. And she said when she got over there, Terrence Shannon Jr. grabbed her and pulled her towards him. She said that she thought that they would just talk, exchange some phone numbers or Snapchats or whatever. Instead, she said that no words were exchanged. She said Terrence Shannon Jr. looked straight ahead and she felt his hand move up her skirt towards her buttocks. Next, she said she felt his hand move her underwear to the side, and he inserted his finger inside of her for what she said was about 10 seconds. She said, I didn't react, I just stood there in shock. She said when it was all over, she pushed through the crowd to leave and looked for her friend. They eventually left the bar, and when they left, she was too hysterical to drive home. When they got home, she told her friend everything that happened. So what they started doing next was searching for this man's identity who so-called violated her. And she said that she remembered that the man was standing by a KU or a Kansas University basketball player at the bar. And she eventually identified this man to be Terrence Shannon Jr. After she went online, she's looking at photos, she's looking at rosters on the Illinois and Kansas football team, basketball team, all that. So she finally figured, oh, that's him, Terrence Shannon Jr. So after this, her and her friend, they went and spoke to the police that same day about this sexual assault that she alleged, okay? She identified Terrence Shannon Jr. to the police. After that, she went to the Lawrence Hospital where, a nurse gave her a R-word examination kit. They did that, and as part of the investigation, when this news went out, okay, Terrence Shannon Jr. was suspended from the team. He was suspended from the team, and his suspension from the team eventually made national news. Now, in the process, as part of his investigation with these girls, this girl that claims that this happened to her, her phone records were collected. Now, her phone records showed a group message that involved 2 women or 3 women, her best friend's sister, her, some other girls, probably these girls in the picture here. I don't know the order, but it was a thread. It was a group message amongst these white girls, okay? And in this exchange, it linked an ESPN article that was showing Terrence Shannon Jr.'s suspension from the basketball team following an R-word charge. And in this message, one of the girls said, God is ASS, and followed that with, an emoji with the dollar signs and the eyes and the tongue for cash, basically for money, we're about to get paid, okay? That kind of exposed what this girl really wanted. But anyway, a few months later, Terrence Shannon,
he learned that he would face criminal charges as well. He was arrested in December. Now, Terrence Shannon Jr. was charged with unlawfully, feloniously, and knowingly engaging in sexual intercourse with a person who did not consent to the sexual intercourse under circumstances when she was overcome by force or fear, which is a felony. Now, shortly after his arrest, after he was arrested, his team, the University of Illinois, they launched their own independent investigation or their own independent probe into what happened. And after they looked into this, the University of Illinois, they dropped their investigation due to what they said was insufficient evidence. Basically, we don't have nothing on him. We looked into it. It's nothing there. Hearsay. Her word, nothing else. Now, after this, Terrence Shannon Jr. was allowed back on the court. He had already missed about 6 games, but even though he missed these 6 games, he still managed to lead his team to the NCAA tournament and also the Elite Eight, and again, after getting smashed at the end by Connecticut. Now, let's fast forward. What happened? Of course, this legal situation is still pending. He was traveling with the team throughout the year. The other team's fans are heckling him, calling him basically a R-worder and, making other comments. You can imagine how that was. A lot of these fans in college, a lot of these white college sports fans, they express their racism under the guise of sports or being a fan. That's what most of them do. That's why you often hear black players, whether it be football, basketball, baseball, they'll say that, yeah, they were out there cheering, but they call me the N-word, they're doing all this monkey stuff. That's what white youth do at universities when they root for the team and they root against the other team. It's usually it always has racial harassment undertones, okay? Now, fast forward, Terrence Shannon Jr. was found not guilty on charges of the R-word and aggravated sexual battery. There was no DNA of his in this chick from that R-word kit that they did, okay? No DNA. They don't have anything on him. All hearsay, okay? It was all hearsay. So, this young brother was harassed. He was lied on. He was ridiculed. His image was tarnished in the media, and he didn't do anything. These people basically just went off of the words of a white girl, and he actually got arrested for that. Now, this is the thing here, people. White women lying on black men is as American as a pastime as baseball, apple pie, and Chevrolet. White women always did this, okay? It's been used by white men to get back at the black community for whatever reason, maybe for their own greed, basically to start a story about something that they may have wanted from us, like farms and wealth and land and things like that, and it's still going on to this day. And these white women, they use it when they're upset at a black man for whatever reason, knowing that due to racism and the religion of white supremacy, their voices will be heard if they say that a black man did something to them. In American history, people, this white woman lying thing was used to destroy entire communities. Many black men were lynched. Many black women were lynched, burned, had their babies ripped out of their wombs. People burned alive, entire black communities tore down, okay? And a lot of this stuff happened in history all because of the lies of a white woman, okay? Now, sometimes these lies were made up completely, and sometimes these women were used by white men in a story when they were lying, and of course they would always go along with it. But contrary to how people feel, white men give white women the power to do this, people. White men give white women the power to go around lying on people and saying these things and doing things like what happened to this young brother right here. I don't care how much they're in the media now talking about it, because when these things happen, there are a lot of men, white men on these platforms talking about how bad it is, how it shouldn't have happened, and how he was railroaded on major networks. But it's white men who give white men and women the power to do this, okay? That's how it goes. Sometimes in history, if a white woman was upset or jealous that a black man didn't pay her any attention, or that he might have left her, or that she may be jealous of his black wife or girlfriend. These are the things that white women have always did, people.
Dying from COVID confessed something really heart-wrenching to me. She told me that when she was a teenager, she told her mother that one of the local black boys had touched her behind the grocery store. And in 1936 Louisiana, this was a very big deal. Not only was this boy lynched, but he was beaten, and his genitals were cut off. And then the family home was burned to the ground. And she watched it all happen. You want to know why? Because she saw that his sisters had prettier dresses than she did. And she just didn't like it. So she lied. And then it clicked. This same woman had been hallucinating for the past couple of days, saying that there was a black boy in her room watching her. Would not stop staring at her. And she was scared shitless. She asked if she could be forgiven. I told her the only person who could forgive her.
And that's American history, people. Happened thousands and thousands of times. Most of the stories we have no clue about. We have no idea how many stories there are where black people were lynched, strange fruit, whole towns destroyed, babies killed, women killed, burned up, all kind of stuff, all because a white woman lied, or they used a white woman to tell a lie so that they can do what they wanted to do. People have no idea how many thousands of stories, okay? This is what always went down. And since the beginning days of chattel slavery on these American plantations, these white women to this day have done absolutely nothing for the planet, okay? They have done nothing for the planet in American history, okay? Even the ones that they parade around and try to tell little black kids in school, hey, they're naming their school after these people, Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and even Mother Teresa, okay? All these people are hardcore white supremacists and Satanists. Horrible people they are. Just ask Ida B. Wells. Ask the great Ida B. Wells about them and what she said about these white feminists, okay? That's what's going on. I did stories on the original channel about the brother Sean Oakman, Baylor University football player, first round pick, about to make his family millions of dollars, coming from Philly, accused by a Becky. Never got it back, never got what he lost. First round pick, okay? Accused by a Becky who lied on him. The players from Ohio State football team named Amir Reap and Jacin Went, accused by a Becky, lost it all. The young brother from the University of Kansas, Albert Wilson, kissed the girl, that's it. Got something else done by her, you know. But no intercourse. Didn't lie about anything. She went and lied. He's cased up for this. Cased up. They even caught cased up Michigan head coach, Mel Tucker. He ain't even a young player no more. This is a coach. Black man. Highest paid coach in college football. New contract. A white supremacist woman by the name of Brenda Tracy accused him of sexual harassment because of a text message. That's it. She got mad, actually, because he felt as though her service, the little program or whatever, the contract that she had, was no longer needed. She has some kind of program that goes around and talks to college football players about respecting women and all this other stuff. He felt as though the program was no longer needed. They were done with it. So she went and said, oh, this, and this. This man never touched her pale skin. Never touched her. They fired him. He's done. Why? Because a white woman said it. And this same white woman here that accused Coach Mel Tucker, when she was in her early 20s, she also accused football players from the University of Oregon at an apartment that she went to an apartment with one of her friends who was going out with one of the players from the University of Oregon team. She went there knowing what was going on. You have young football players at this place. She was older than everybody. She knew they were there. She knew there were drinks there. She went there. She accused them. Her friend said that she's overreacting, and she got these players cases. That was when she was in her 20s. So later on, she's in her almost 50s. She's still accusing black men, and that's what she did to Coach Mel Tucker, because they allowed her to use use her white privilege and have a program that goes around with college athletes, college football players and other athletes, and talk about respecting women. And this woman was going around sleeping with coaches and everything. They got proof. Absolutely sick. And these women are allowed to do this, people, because white men allow them to do it. So people don't fall for the okie doke of these guys coming out making statements, on their platforms, just telling the truth. But why do you give these women the power to do it? Because it's their women, white supremacy, religion. They're allowed to exercise this fraction of power under the religion of white supremacy because white men allow them to do it. So people, this is not a victory. This brother, Terrence Shannon Jr., he shouldn't have ever been in this position. Shouldn't have been in this position. He's a young man at a college party, whatever, chilling. I don't know if he called it, I don't know all that. But he didn't do nothing to this girl. So what do the young brothers do now? I mean, what y'all gonna do, man? Something has to be done. More precaution has to be taken when you're gonna be around these white women, okay? Something has to be done, man. I know that most of the time when young brothers do mess around with these Beckys at these colleges, usually nothing happens. You know what I'm saying? Nothing happens. These white girls at these campuses, they're doing everything. They're sleeping with every black athlete that they could, just being nasty, doing whatever. Okay, usually nothing happens, okay? But the one time that it does, it's drastic. Or the two times. These white girls at these campuses are talking about they're the team manager. She's walking around carrying a clipboard and drinks for the players. Or I'm the student assistant therapist. She's in rooms stretching these players before games. And you know why these women want these positions, man. You know why these white girls want these positions at these universities, carrying a clipboard and I'm the assistant therapist and all stretching black players. You know why they want these positions, okay? So the thing is now, people, what y'all gonna do, man? I mean, they throwing these Beckys at these girls. I mean, these young brothers, by the time they get out of high school, as soon as they go on these college visits, they have these girls, these university hoes, these white girls offering these young black athletes things like that, to entice them to come to the school or show them like, yeah, listen, if you come here, this is what you want to get. This is what they do at these universities. They sick these white girls, and these girls are actual whores in the programs and stuff like that. They know their job. I mean, what are they going to do, y'all? What's up? People have to use better precaution.
Well, what do you say, America? As I said before, and as I said again, America has a spirit of racism. This is the proof that had to come out like this from these videos. America don't want to admit that we diversity, but yet there's a subconscious underlying deep-seated rooted hatred in America. And particularly it's the same group of people out of all the different racial groups that's been in this country, there's some still coming to this country. They target a certain group of people. There's got to be something with that. I'm telling you, it's something deeply spiritual with this. That when it comes to us as black people, you have to be careful where you go in the cities and states where you're at. Be careful where you go. If you're a black man or a black woman. And you see how something keep over centuries. With black people, it keeps rising up. And you see how for every decade, every century, going back to the 1600s to now, you see the same spirit coming up. And now you see how that man that wanted to come to a land. He's out in Arizona. What does some black people in Atlanta got something to do with it? Just the same case what happened up in Buffalo, New York. And The dude was from Conklin, New York, which is like over 100 something miles. And it's like what the people say, we live rent free in their heads. It's like, are you serious? You way out there freaking predominantly like places like Dakota. Why do you even care about something? But it's just something, it's sick with racist people. They are obsessed, with blacks, Jewish people, and Muslims and and Hispanics. But mostly with us. I don't know what, they would not let that go. They will harbor that hatred, that deep-rooted jealousy, envious hatred in their spirit. And you can see it in sarcastically when it comes on the job. When you're out there working in the workplace, you see it. And they act and they play like it's something wrong with you. Then that's just the way it goes. No, subconsciously they have to hide it and they have to swing it. But because if they do, they don't want to lose what they have until you call it out. I don't care what, it will never go away. It's keep going from generation after generation after generation. And then you got these politicians that think taking it out of the school because of CRT, but you see CRT is making its presence to this day, and the people that's controlling it is the ones that's doing it. The people, their neighbors, are doing it. Go figure. This is America. This is one of the things we don't want to tell other countries in the world, that this is going on. We all together. It looks delusional in sports and everything, but subconsciously we have a deep-seated history in racial. Even though you see mixture of crowds of people, among the mixture of crowds of people, there's a segment of people that can't stand black people for some reason. And then you ask them, what is it about black people? You way out there and think, what is it about them? They just can't help it. And I'm telling you, that same spirit's going to carry them straight to hell. Why they trying to say that? Some of you trying to say that they're Christians. Those love Jesus, right? Let's see what Jesus say when they stand before him. All right, then, ladies and gentlemen. Another lesson in American from past to present as we head towards the future. But one day, these people that are doing this going to have a wake-up call, and they're not going to like it. And the same thing they have done to us for 400 years, it's going to start coming against them. Their generations after them, it's going to feel what we feel. Watch what I tell you. And the ones that's doing it, watch what I tell you. We're the least of the problem. It's already written in the books and the prophecy. What's going to happen to them? Take note. Beware. Be blessed. See you on this video.